Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kathryn, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing my all-time favorite reads. These reads are on the 6-star tier level in my mind. These are the books that, even though I consider a lot of books 5 stars, this is like above that. These are the ones that I will reread and reread until the end of time and never get sick of them. I will rave and rant about them and recommend them to everyone. Even though 5 stars is considered perfect in my mind for a book, these ones blew me out of the water. These gave me feelings that I can never recreate, and I want to share these books with you so that you can read them and hopefully get the same feelings that I did when I read them. Growing up, I always struggled with reading and learning in general. I had an IEP in school, which is an individualized education plan. I was constantly pulled out of class, and I felt so stupid for having to do that. But it wasn't until the 4th grade when my 4th grade teacher read a certain book to us in class, and I convinced my mom to buy the book for me, and I read it like 10 times through, maybe even more times, just because it was when it finally clicked to me that I actually wasn't stupid and that I enjoyed reading and I enjoyed learning. So I will be sharing that book with you in just a few moments because this does make it into my all-time favorite reads. But let's just get into it. I am going to start out with that book that I was talking about that I read in the 4th grade that really made me fall in love with reading, and that is The Tale of Despereaux by Kate DiCamillo. This does not have a dust jacket on it. You'll notice this is a theme in a lot of my book videos. I do not like dust jackets because I'm a psycho. No, I'm really not a psycho, but I just love the look of naked books, and who can deny the cuteness of Despereaux on this cover? And one of my favorite things about this physical book is the very like rugged, I don't even know, the pages on the outside are like very much like worn and ripped. I think it's supposed to be made that way. I don't know if it picks up on the camera, but I always loved that about this book, that it made it seem like it was very worn in. Even at the time of buying this for the first time when I was in the 4th grade and it was brand new, it still looked like that. And I just love how it looks so worn in and so loved. And this book is certainly loved. So my 4th grade teacher, I almost said 1st grade, my 4th grade teacher read this to us in class, and I just fell in love with this book. So Miss Corcoran, if you're if you're watching this video, thank you so much, because you are the reason why I realized that I'm not stupid and that I actually do love reading. I'm gonna cry. I didn't realize I was gonna cry. But this book really changed me in a lot of ways, because not only did it make me feel like I could enjoy books, but it made me feel like I wasn't behind. But this is just like a really magical book, to say the least. So it's about this mouse. And yes, a mouse. Okay, don't laugh at me. But it's about a mouse who essentially lives in a castle, and he has to assist the princess in a variety of magical ways. So I actually had to go to Goodreads to help describe this book better, because there are a lot of moving parts in this book, and it's been a while since I've read it, so I probably have to reread it again soon just to remind myself how much I love this book. But essentially, Goodreads is a good place to start when trying to describe this book, because like I said, there's a lot of moving parts to this book. My cat Lucy wants to say hi. But I'm going to read the synopsis so that you get a better depiction of what this book is about, rather than just me telling you, because I'm probably going to butcher the synopsis of this book. So it says, a brave mouse, a covetous rat, a wishful serving girl, and a princess named P come together in Kate DiCamillo's Newbery Medal winning tale. Welcome to the story of Despereaux Tilling, a mouse who is in love with music, stories, and a princess named P. It is also the story of a rat called Despereaux, who lives in the darkness and covets a world filled with light. And it is the story of Miggery So, a slow-witted serving girl who harbors a simple, impossible wish. These three characters are about to embark on a journey that will lead them down into a horrible dungeon, up into a glittering castle, and ultimately into each other's lives. What happens then? As DiCamillo would say, reader, it is your destiny to find out. And I think this book is such a good tale into my future of like what kind of books I would love. So like it mentioned in the synopsis, it mostly follows, from what I remember, Despereaux, which is the mouse, but it does follow a rat and also a servant girl and also the princess named P. So it really, as a child, made reading feel magical because I would consider this like a middle grade book. Like it's a very much fantasy book made for like young children or kids in their preteens. So I definitely enjoyed reading this book because it just made me fall in love with reading, and now I really enjoy reading books about like fantasy and like fairy tales and things like that. So this book really made my reading journey projectile into what I now enjoy, which is funny because I feel like this really foretold what I would enjoy in my future. So I really loved the Tale of Despereaux. It was like the first book I truly enjoyed reading, and I definitely recommend reading it if you have children. If you don't have children, it doesn't really matter. Like I would still read this book as a 28-year-old adult. So go ahead and read it because it definitely is such a cute, magical read that makes you feel all of the goodness and lightheartedness of what life is really about, and that's enjoying the magic in everyday life. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but these books are in no particular order. They all have a special meaning to me, even though I only have 5 books on this list right now. Like, that doesn't mean anything. Like, these books could change. Like, definitely not the Tale of Despereaux, okay? The Tale of Despereaux is staying where it is, okay? That is the book that made me fall in love with reading. But I could always be adding to this list. Even like these books that I'm going to share with you next, like these are not going to change either because these definitely shaped my love of reading as well. Like, I feel like my all-time favorite readings are always going to be there. Do you know what I mean? I'm never going to take away, I'm only going to add. But like I was mentioning before, I don't have these in any particular order because they all have different meanings to me. So don't ask me to rate these books in any particular order because they all have the same place holding in my heart, okay? So the next book that I have is actually a special edition. It's Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. You can see that it has like this foiling on it. It's so pretty. This isn't what like the normal cover looks like. I had 2 copies of the normal cover in paperback, but I either lent them out or gave them as gifts and I never got them back. So I just went ahead and like bought this special edition. I got this off of christianbook.com. I actually used to work for them, by the way, as a customer service representative. So I got this at a discount actually when I was working for them. But this is just so pretty. So I can pretty much describe this without having to look at Goodreads because this is like the first adult book that I truly fell in love with. So this is considered a Christian historical romance book, and essentially it follows a girl named Angel, and she is sold into sex trafficking as like a child, okay? Very sad, okay? I know, but please hang tight because like this does get better. It takes place in the gold rush era of California, and she ends up getting married to this guy named Michael Hosea, who is told by God to marry her. And she is 18 at the time when she gets married to Michael. She's still in prostitution at that time, but basically this marriage rescues her out of that. And basically the whole book is like him, Michael Hosea, trying to love Angel the way that Jesus loves us. And it's such a great representation of like God and Jesus's love for us, the way that Michael Hosea loves Angel. This is actually loosely based off of the book of Hosea in the Bible, and in that there are a lot of mirroring things that go on in Hosea in the book of the Bible and this. I definitely recommend reading this because this not only was one of my favorite all-time books of my adult years, but it also showed me like God's love for me. Like I never felt God's love in such a palpable way than I did through this book. Like, of course, I feel God's love in a palpable way through reading the Bible, but like in terms of like a fictional book, this like changed me in a way like no other fictional book has. So definitely recommend this book. This was a 6-star read for me. And this is by Francine Rivers. I don't know if I mentioned that. Maybe I did. I'm blonde. But yeah, this book, you need to go check it out because not only is this book great, but a lot of her other books are great as well. She writes Christian fiction. She's such a great author. And if you don't end up liking this book, which I doubt you won't like this book, I bet you will love this book. But if you don't like this book, there's a lot of other books on her backlist that you could also read. But the next book in my all-time favorites is another one of her books, so let me show you that. So this is The Masterpiece by Francine Rivers. I know I'm breaking my rule already that I don't keep dust jackets, but truly if a dust jacket is beautiful enough, I will keep it. And this is like just so pretty with the wing on it, but this dust jacket actually does have a lot of meaning, and I'll describe in a second. So essentially this book follows a man named Roman, and he is an artist in California. He actually lives in the Topanga Canyon, and for those who don't know what Topanga Canyon is, it's like such a beautiful area of California near Malibu and Calabasas, where it's like these huge hills and valleys, and there's houses along the way, and it's so beautiful, and it's just the most perfect scene and setup for this book because I actually used to live in California and Anaheim, like really near Topanga Canyon, and I could just like picture this book there. So basically it's about Roman, who is an artist, and he is basically facing a lot of demons in his life. He's not a Christian. He just makes a lot of art. He's very wealthy. He chases girls. He chases a whole bunch of other things, money, all the things, until he hires an assistant, and her name is Grace. I had to check on that. I really want to reread this book actually because it's one book on my all-time favorite reads that like I actually haven't reread. So I have reread Redeeming Love and The Tale of Despereaux, but I haven't reread this book and I want to. So please forgive me for forgetting the main character girl's name. But her name is Grace, and Roman hires Grace as an assistant, like an administrative assistant almost. And she's a Christian, but she also faces a lot of demons. But instead of, chasing after awful things, she turns to God. She has a child, she's been divorced, and basically when she's hired as his assistant, she basically shows him like the love of God. And this is one of the only contemporary books that I've actually enjoyed reading. I'm not a big contemporary fiction reader that I've realized, but this is one of the only contemporary fictions that I have enjoyed a lot. But essentially, I know that sounds a little bit vague and it doesn't sound like all too appealing, but like honestly, like there's so many things that it deals with. Like it's so much more than just him being an artist and her being the administrative assistant. It's their character development, it's the things that they talk about and do that just make this book so great. And I don't know how else to convince you to read this book other than to just read the book. And the reason why that there's like a big giant angel wing or bird wing on this is because in Roman's other lifetime or other life, he's a graffiti artist, and no one knows that it's him because he has like a pen name or like an alter ego name. I don't know what to call that, but he has another name that he tags the graffiti with, so no one knows that it's him, and he's like a famous artist. So if anyone found out that it was him, it'd be like this huge scandal, and he'd probably have to go to prison because graffiti is illegal. So it's just a great book, a lot of character development, and I definitely teared up at the end of this book because if you read it, you'll know. So the next book that I have is The Help by Kathryn Stockett, and essentially what this book is about is these three women living in the 1960s in rural Mississippi, so in the South during that time. And as you can imagine, this book is high in tension from the civil rights movement during that time. And so it basically just follows these three women, two of which are black, one is white, and they all somehow cross paths in this book. I'm not going to give anything away because it would ruin the book, but this is a very well-loved book by a lot of people, and there's also a movie about it. So definitely go watch the movie if you end up reading this book. Like I mentioned before earlier in this video, I love historical fiction, and this is definitely falling into that category, and you should definitely read it if you love historical fiction. And the last book that I have on this list is Marley and Me by John Grogan. So this is actually, I think, considered a nonfiction, but it feels like a fiction book the way it's told. So essentially it's about this Labrador retriever, and the way it connected to me was so deep because at the time I was reading this, I was in high school, and I grew up with golden retrievers, and I don't want to give anything away, but there were definitely tears shed at the end of this book because it just follows the life of this Labrador retriever through the eyes of the owners. They lived in Boca Raton, Florida, which is really funny because I went to college in Boca Raton, Florida, and they also lived up in New England as well with this Labrador retriever named Marley, of course. So it's just basically about Marley, the Labrador retriever, and me, hence why it's called Marley and Me. So it basically just goes through the life of Marley, the Labrador retriever, through the eyes of the owner. And I know this sounds like super boring because it's just like following the life of this dog, but it's written in such a way that it feels like it's a fiction book. Like there's definitely a story there. Like the storyness of it is definitely what drew me into this book and made me like bawl my eyes out at the end. And I also watched the movie afterwards, which made me further bawl my eyes out. I'm not going to give anything away. I mean, you probably have something to guess about this book ending, but like it is just so good. Like coming from someone who doesn't like nonfiction, like this is a nonfiction that I can get behind. But yes, you definitely have to read this one as well, especially if you're a dog lover or an animal lover in general. But yeah, these are the top 5 all-time favorite books in my list. It's The Tale of Despereaux by DiCamillo, Redeeming Love and the Masterpiece by Francine Rivers, The Help by Kathryn Stockett, and Marley and Me by John Grogan. I definitely recommend all of these books. I hope you enjoy them if you do end up reading them. I cannot recommend these enough. Like I said, they definitely changed me in different ways throughout my life. They all taught me different things in the different life stages that I was in. And if you end up reading any of these books, or if you've read these books before, please let me know in the comments below, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Make sure to do all the YouTube things that you know how to do, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye!